During a recent town hall on Fox News, Bernie Sanders was asked to comment on what everyone's been talking about, which is his political opponent's mental decline. And as always, Bernie Sanders took the high road. Take a look.
Some of Joe Biden's answers don't make sense. Do you think it's acceptable for a presidential candidate to respond to questions like Joe Biden does?
Well, let me just say this. Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years.
This isn't a personal attack, but it gets to Nina's question. And the question of Joe Biden's mental acuity is not something that just comes up. Senator, your thoughts?
I'm not going to go at that level in attacking. For Joe and I have, that's for people to decide. All I can say is Joe and I have very significant political differences. And I'm not going to be making, personal attacks on Joe. That's not what I do.
So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Bret Baier in that this isn't just, it's not a personal attack, right? A personal attack is Joe Biden, and he didn't do this, I'm just giving you an example, or random politician had an affair 20 years ago, cheated on his wife, and that led to a divorce. It's a personal attack to bring that up in the context of an election to try to smear or destroy the reputation of the person that you're running against. In this case, we're talking about someone who's running to be president of the United States, and there have been endless examples of Biden's cognitive decline. In fact, just a quick video mashup of that to show you guys what we're talking about. And then I wanna kind of discuss whether or not this is a good play for Bernie Sanders. Take a look.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right, it's Chris, but anyway.
I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont?
You had people like Margaret Thatcher. You had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto.
The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is
that's not true. The other one is here.
Play the radio. Make sure the television. Make sure you have the record player on at night.
Yeah, no. There's definitely an issue, and so I'll get to personal attack or not, and whether Bernie should go there or not in a second. But guys, you have to be able to distinguish different things. Now, one of the excuses they're using now is that he has a stutter. So you notice there in the Margaret Thatcher answer, he did stutter a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, nobody would make fun of him for having a stutter. Nobody would think that that's an issue. In that clip, that's not the issue at all. The issue is, I think he was trying to refer to Angela Merkel because he said the person leading Germany, but he originally called her Margaret Thatcher and then couldn't remember her name. So that is a thing that often happens when folks are getting older and are having trouble with their mental faculties. It's just a fact. That is what. Now, if that was just by itself, you say, "Oh, come on, that's so unfair." Like they speak all the time. Another clip there, Blafrican American or whatever he said, right? Okay, look, you could slip up. I slipped up earlier in this show and invented a new word called coffee, and then I just called it world instead of word. Okay, so it happens.
That kind of stuff, people misspeak or mispronounce when they're speaking off the cuff all the time. That's not even, I have no concern about that whatsoever.
But in that clip, the real issue is he forgot Kamala Harris is another African-American woman in the Senate. He was referring to Moseley Brown, Carol Moseley Brown being the only African-American woman to ever be in the Senate. And Cory Booker and Kamala Harris is like, awkward, she's right there, the other one. And he's like, what? So if you don't know politics, maybe you lose track of whether it's Super Tuesday or Super Thursday. If you've been in politics for 50 years, you know it's Super Tuesday. You know it's New Hampshire that votes second, not Vermont. This is a lot of mistakes piled on top of one another. Another excuse folks use is gaffes. These are gaffes. No, when Biden in the old days used to do gaffes all the time. When he said you can't walk into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts in Delaware and not run into somebody with an Indian accent. You shouldn't say that, that's a gaffe. That's not a mistake. These are all I forgot what I'm saying. I forgot that all men are created equal.
Right.
I forgot Merkel's name. And then when you get challenged on stuff, you get really cranky and irritable.
Right.
Which is another thing that we see over and over again.
You guys, he debated Sarah Palin not that long ago, right? He didn't have these moments during his debate with Sarah Palin. And I'm not even talking about he made great points against Sarah Palin. I mean, there's nothing difficult about doing that. I'm just trying to make a point about how he didn't have sudden losses in memory. He didn't have these strange moments during his debate with Sarah Palin. I remember that vividly. I remember sitting there watching that debate. There wasn't a single moment during that debate where I thought to myself, is Joe Biden okay?
Yeah, look, so you forget Sarah Palin, he debated Paul Ryan and did a great job against Paul Ryan. So in fact, at the beginning of this election, this primary season, I said every Democrat running can beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump is way more unpopular than people realize. And when asked, even though I support Bernie Sanders, I endorsed him at the end, open-minded to everybody, but of course we know that Joe Biden is in the more conservative wing of the party. I said, no, Joe Biden could definitely beat Donald Trump. I now have changed my mind based on new evidence.
Yes.
When you look at that, they're gonna eviscerate him. They're gonna run that on a loop for 6 months straight. Everybody on cable news is gonna talk about it. So is it a personal attack? I can understand why Joe Biden would take it personally, but it is a real issue for the campaign.
Yes, yes. And I don't think that it serves anyone well for Bernie to quote unquote take the high road and avoid commenting on what all of us can see, especially when we all see it. And right now, everyone on the left is being gaslit by corporate Democrats, the same corporate Democrats who also questioned Biden's mental faculties during the primary debates, right? So I want to go through quick rundown of all these establishment types, mainstream media types who also brought up this issue, and now they're turning around, they're gaslighting everyone else who's bringing it up. Let's start with Andrea Mitchell. This is a video from June 27th of last year. Take a look.
And look, he has been a skilled debater. We saw him with Sarah Palin. We've seen him in the past. The question is, does he still have his stuff? And
spontaneity.
Yeah, and how sharp is he? Does the Joe Biden tonight, is he the same Joe Biden who could respond with one word?
Okay, so that's Andrea Mitchell questioning, whether he's still as sharp as he used to be. We all know what that means. Then there's Tim Ryan, okay, hardly some socialist leftist who, of course, was running against him in the primaries. And so here's a video of him on September 7th of 2019.
Tim Ryan just wrapped up his speech at the state's Democratic Party convention. He is also responding to a comment he made this week in which he said he believes Joe Biden is declining and doesn't have the energy to take on Donald Trump. Here's what Tim Ryan just told CNN's Arlette Saenz.
Typically what you meant. Well, I made the statement. It was a comment that I made, and I'm not backtracking from it. It is a concern you're hearing from a lot of people in the country. I'm just saying that it's unclear sometimes when he is articulating positions. There's a lack of clarity, and I'll leave it at that.
So you're saying you don't believe that Biden can be aggressive. You say he's declining. In what way do you mean that? And is this an inference to his age or something else?
Well, he went on Colbert to address this very issue. It's not like I said something that a lot of people aren't thinking, or he wouldn't have went on Colbert to talk about it. So this is an issue. We have to be honest with each other.
Yeah, we have to be honest with each other. And by the way, that includes Bernie Sanders. It is not considered going low in addressing the very thing that jeopardizes Democrats beating Donald Trump in the general election. Period. It's just as important as policy. If you have a president, or more importantly, a Democratic candidate who's gonna be up against Donald Trump in the general election, you want someone who is not experiencing any type of mental decline. And more importantly, okay, best case scenario for Democrats, right? Let's say they get what they want, they push Bernie out, you have Biden as the Democratic nominee, and he gets elected. Then you have a president who's having issues with his cognitive ability.
They all know it. They're all talking about how they have to get him a really healthy VP, mentally healthy. So then you all know it. And then, but then you turn around with outrage when progressives say it. Wait a minute, Cory Booker said it.
Right. September 12th of 2019, Cory Booker brought that up. This was following a debate. Let's go to video G5.
We are at a tough point right now because there's a lot of people who are concerned about Joe Biden's ability to carry the ball all the way across the end line without fumbling. And I think that Castro has some really legitimate concerns about, can he be someone in a long, grueling campaign that can get the ball over the line?
Cory Booker, Julian Castro, Tim Ryan, Andrea Mitchell. They all said it, but now when progressives bring it up, you monsters, how could you? You're not allowed to talk about something that is obvious. We all see with our own eyes. We previously acknowledged seeing with our own eyes. But hey, it's Biden versus Bernie, and we don't want Bernie, so we want to cover this up during the primary. And by the way, even if your grand plans work, what happens in the general election? You have no prayer of covering it up then. When the Republicans bring it up, every cable news host will then turn around and go, nothing we could do. Republicans made an issue out of it, so we have to talk about it 24/7 for 6 months straight until the Democrats have no chance of winning at all.
It's definitely gonna happen. It's definitely gonna happen. And by the way, Morning Joe Scarborough brought this issue up. This video, G4, is from June 28th of 2019.
I'm gonna say also, front runner Joe Biden, man, he was off his game. I must say, won't make friends here. It was one of the more disturbing debate performances I have seen since Ronald Reagan's first debate in 1984. It was one of those moments where you're going, my God, is he going to complete his sentence? There were times he said he was going to give us 3 points. He gave us 1.5 and then did something that Joe Biden has never done. Gave back his time. But time's up. No, Joe Biden doesn't do that.
Yep, he's referring to when Reagan had Alzheimer's. And so anyone pretending they're outraged now that we're bringing up a legitimate issue, it honestly has been either tricked by the mainstream media or are part of the people who are doing the tricking. And they do propaganda 24/7, even though they themselves earlier brought up the issue. When they thought it might be another establishment candidate like Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg or whoever it might be, they're like, oh, Joe Biden's got problems. Right. Oh, it's Bernie versus Biden. No, but Biden doesn't have any problems. And you're not allowed to say he has problems.
They hate Bernie so much that they are willing to risk losing to Trump, having Trump get reelected in order to prevent Bernie from becoming president. Okay, and I say this not just to our audience, I say this with the hope that Bernie hears what I'm saying, right? And I know I'm not the only one. They're gonna attack you as being a vicious person, a divisive person, a horrible person that goes against unity, no matter what you do, right? You can be the most pleasant person, you can call Joe Biden your friend every single day, every single hour of every single day. They don't care, they're gonna attack you anyway. So please address something that everyone sees, your supporters see, but are currently being gaslit about on social media and in the mainstream press. So please.
One last thing is, every time Bernie takes an action, he has to think of how will mainstream media smear me for it? And he has to adjust to that. Biden doesn't have to adjust to that, no other candidate has to adjust. Only Bernie Sanders has to think, okay, how many millions of dollars in free media will my opponent get when I make this comment? Because every single person in the media, New York Times, NPR, MSNBC, CNN, will twist my words out of context and attack me. So he has a different calculus than anyone else. And then they say, oh, so what, get beyond it. We're supposed to just get beyond the fact that everyone in the media is stacking the deck against them. No, it's an outrage. They rig elections more than anyone else on the planet. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.